Your body is the movie projector of your life. And when you're in perimenopause, the truth of this is deeply felt. Join me this week as I sit down with Betsey Kudlinski and we talk about somatic experiencing and the perimenopausal journey. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so excited to once again be joined by Betsey Kudlinski. Welcome to the show, Betsy.
Hey there.
So Betsy and I had a beautiful conversation back in episode 32. So if you have not had a chance to check out that episode, I would highly recommend it. Betsy laid out beautifully what somatic experiencing is in the work that she does with people. So if this isn't a concept that you're really familiar with, again, highly recommend episode 32. But we had some really beautiful conversations around somatic experiencing, and in our screening call prior to doing podcast episodes, we started talking a lot about how somatic experiencing is really valuable during the perimenopausal journey. So just to give everybody the lay of the land, I know I've done a few episodes on this, but if this is a brand new concept to you, perimenopause can start as early as 35. Okay, Chinese medicine understands that the body moves in 7-year cycles. 35, 42, and 49 are very critical benchmarks in a woman's life. 35 is where we get extended the invitation to look at how we're spending our chi or our vital energy. Are we overscheduled? Are we still trying to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning, get 4 hours of sleep, roll out of bed, and hit the ground running with the same intensity and not expecting any ramifications of those decisions like we experienced in our 20s? If we don't heed that invitation at 35, by the time we get around 40, 42, our body goes, sit down, girlfriend. You haven't listened to the fact that I gave you a very pleasant reminder that you are now in the phase of your life where you need to re-envision. I'm not saying you have to do less. I'm not saying you can't do all the things you want to do, but re-envision the pace and the balance with which you do all of these things. The capacity is still the same. However, we need more of an intentional and mindful balance between rest and action. And if we haven't learned how to do that, or we haven't started to embrace that new way of thinking, by the time we hit 40, almost 42, our body is like, yeah, you overspent the bank account. Here's all of the symptoms to tell you've done that. So I have a lot of women that reach out to me around 40 and they go, dear God, what is happening in my body right now? And my cycle was normal. And then all of a sudden, and then they start listing off all the symptoms that they're experiencing. And it feels like, and their perception is that it came out of nowhere. But what I'll do is I'll invite them to think about, what did 35 to 40 look like? Was it super stressful? Did you notice that your body was saying, this is too much for me today, but you pushed through it anyway? Which was your default setting? Were you pushing through it when you knew somewhere deep in your body you should have been resting? Did you honor that invitation? Right? So a lot of times we can point back to the quote unquote sins of the past that are informing the way the body is presenting itself in the future. But right around 42, this is where yin begins to decline in women. So this is truly where I would say the rubber starts to hit the road in terms of your perimenopausal journey. So I've seen different numbers quoted in different literature. Sometimes they say perimenopause can last 7 to 10 years. Sometimes it's 5 to 10 years. Sometimes it says 7 to 12 years. Like there's different spans, right? And honestly, again, that's informed by how you are spending your vital energy. What are you spending it on? So 42 is where your yin or all of the fluids of your body begin to dry. So you may notice your hair is drier, your skin is drier, your thirst level has gone up. Maybe you're starting to notice, maybe you're not totally to the hot flash stage yet, but you may notice that you're half in, half out of the covers. And if somebody pulls covers up over your shoulder, you're going to smother them with a pillow. Right? Like you might have just gotten to a point where you're like running a little warmer than I normally do. Or normally I'd have to put a sweatshirt on right now, but the weather isn't phasing me at all. Right? So it's little subtle things. Okay. The body doesn't just explode for no reason. Symptoms don't just go from 0 to, dear God, pump the brakes overnight. It's a journey, it's a process. And a lot of times that process happens depending on how we choose to listen to that little inner guidance system as to how much or how little we should be doing in any particular given time. So 42 is where the yin begins to dry. And for me, I noticed my skin got drier. I needed a little bit more of a heavy duty face cream because my chin was really dry all of a sudden. But it was subtle, right? I was also looking for it. But, we'll start to notice things like this. And then over that journey between 42 and 49, the average age in the United States of making the menopausal transition is 51. So 49 is that next 7-year benchmark where the cycle can start getting weird. It might disappear for several months at a time, then it reappears again. For some people, they'll bleed for several weeks, and that actually is a sign of an imbalance, just putting a pin in that. But it's where your cycle starts to get kind of funky. And it's not as predictable as it once was. The pattern looks different. The appearance of it looks different. And it's the tail end of that journey. Okay. Perimenopause is the entire journey to getting to that one day where you have been 12 months with no bleed. That day is menopause. And then
after that, you're postmenopause.
Exactly. The next day, you're postmenopausal. So that is a journey. It happens slowly, progressively over a period of time. Anybody who has observed little girls or have little girls of their own, you're going to have seen this in the body coming online for the period. So they go from having like little round cheeks and having that little girl kind of look to her face, and then all of a sudden, like right around 7, the face shape changes and they start looking a little more like young ladies rather than little girls. And then between 7 and 14, you have the breast buds and the body hair and like the things that slowly start to appear over the course of that 7-year time frame, with the period theoretically coming between 12 and 14. And all of the variations thereof we could talk about in another episode. But theoretically, according to Chinese medicine, this is how that progression takes place. So if that's the case, then perimenopause looks the same way. We're just reverse engineering this hormonal process, right? So it's a journey. Perimenopause is the journey. The difference is, one, we tend to give a break to teenagers and all of their mood swings when they're coming online and dismiss it as, oh, they're just adolescents. They're teenagers. This is normal. However, when you're in your 40s, and you have a mortgage and children, and maybe you're taking care of aging parents at the same time you're taking care of young kids, or you have teenagers in the house, why nature thought it would be intelligent to put a puberty child in the same household as a perimenopausal woman, I will never understand that logic because you're both going through these emotional changes at the same time because one body is coming into their bleeding years and the other is coming out of their bleeding years. There are neurological, biological changes that take place during both of those processes. And yet, the poor 40-year-old woman, or in her 40s woman, ends up with all these labels like she's ragey, she's crazy, she's going from zero to bitch in 3.5 seconds. And we get all these nasty labels, whereas, like, a teenager gets a pass. But because we're further along in our life and we have way more responsibilities and all these other things, people have become accustomed to what you are, quote unquote, normally. So now this looks very abnormal to the world around you. And yet, it is completely normal. We just don't normalize the fact that you are going through your third golden opportunity to completely revitalize your health when you're going through perimenopause. And there is so much that is changing in your neurology because all of these estrogen receptors in your brain are now processing the world differently because your estrogen is changing.
Mm-hmm.
The way you react and respond to the world changes. Now let's just talk about the fact that you've got life and like the movie projector of your life has put a whole bunch of baggage on top of all of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is why when Betsy and I were talking, I was like, oh, this would be such a juicy conversation. And I really wanted to have her back on the show because there's so much changing at a chemical level, at a physical level in the body during this time frame. And she had made the statement, oh, I see a lot of people. I work with a lot of women at this stage. And I was like, oh, let's talk about why.
Yes.
So, given that framework, so that
Yeah.
everybody understands the time frame in a woman's life that we're talking about, the transition, what is happening at both a physical but also kind of a social level during that time frame, why do you suppose that you work with so many women during this time frame?
Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. I loved that intro, that like little packet of information about perimenopause. It's just beautiful, Adrienne. Thank you. And it just fleshed out thoughts that I have, right? Like I haven't looked into menopause and perimenopause except for myself, right? Like I've read a book or two knowing that it's coming, it's happening. And so I want to be aware. And I was also just happenstance aware that the majority of the folks that I work with are perimenopausal women. And so the thoughts that I have had are it's too much for too long, right? It's all just built up. And we get towards this age of perimenopause and past, and the societal message is, whether or not it's actually accurate, the societal message is that women of a certain age start to become invisible.
Hmm.
Right? And that is
Yes.
the perfect time to start looking at yourself because what the fuck? Where did I go? What? I'm
Mm.
still here. Hello?
Yes. I'm not
Right?
dead
Like,
yet.
if nobody's looking at me, why am I trying so hard to
Yeah.
be something that I'm not?
Hmm.
That's one of the reasons I get a lot of people. Again, the hormonal changes, the neuronal receptors for the estrogen and progesterone and all of the hormonal changes. I'm not a neurologist, but on a nervous system level, I would suspect that at about 35, I actually love that framework. Our body is like, hello,
Yes.
right? You just said that because another term that I use all the time is allostatic load. It's from like 1993. It's a term created by a neurologist. Let me see if I can, so that I'm actually saying, maybe we can put it in the show notes so that I am like clear that I didn't come up with this term. But the allostatic load is cumulative stress, like manifesting as mental and physical effects and symptoms. And if you spend 35 to 40, 42 ignoring that cumulative stress, then you got to pay the toll.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden we have, not all of a sudden, for most of us, it's not all of a sudden, right?
Hmm.
It comes on, but then like everything, whether it's the hormonal changes that make us more aware of it, or whether it's the fact that we are more aware of ourselves in a way nobody else is,
Yeah.
or whether it's finally like came into adulthood and we've been here long enough to go, all right, what's the point? Done the adult thing. Like I was all excited to be an adult for 20 years, but now I'm like, okay, been an adult for 20 years. Now what? Right? And one of the things that we talk about in SE all the time is past trauma. And
Yes.
if you haven't worked with it, and that could be a car accident, it could be emotional neglect when you were a kid, it could be being born via C-section, it could be an assault, it could just be working 70 hours a week under a boss that just doesn't care very much, right? That can be trauma too. We can hold that in our body. And so that all builds up, right? That's stress. We can call it all stress, or we could call it all trauma, give it a fancy label that makes it seem more like we should actually do something about it. And so that's, as far as I can tell, that's why people show up at this time in their lives. That's why humans socialized as female or assigned female at birth show up at this time. It's like, where did I go? I want to find me again.
Yeah. Oh, I had to laugh at your 70 hours a week for an unappreciative boss. I was like, ooh, I feel very seen right now. This is part of why I work for myself now. But it's true because it takes
Yeah.
a toll on your self-esteem and all of
Yep.
the inner critic conversations you have inside of your head.
Yeah.
And when you reach this stage of your life, whether you have kids or not, because I can assure you, as a parent of teens, they can make you feel real small some days too. So there's just a lot of stress. Like if you're starting to care for aging parents because you're part of that sandwich generation, you're seeing your parents go from being a parent to being more childlike. That comes with its own social transitions and emotional transitions because this person used to be your caretaker and now you've flipped roles and that can feel very weird. There's so much that lands at this phase of your life, and your body is the movie projector of your life,
Yes,
right?
it certainly is. And it comes home to roost,
Hmm.
right? Some of us, if we're unlucky, I started having chronic pain when I was 12, right? And it's just continued and morphed and changed and become pathological. But a lot of us didn't have our allostatic load manifest, right?
Yeah,
Like we didn't have it overload until now.
right,
And it's really funny, Adrienne, when you were just talking about we all see the world through our own lenses, right?
right.
So I was thinking about you were talking about the effect of having a 70-hour a week job where the boss doesn't hardly notice you and the emotional stress, the emotional toll that takes. So yes, we're socialized to understand that's what we need to do, right? But like our culture sets us up for that, whether it's our culture or our family of origin, like sets us up to believe that we don't deserve any more than working our butts off and for nothing. I mean, just for money, which is nothing. I'm sorry. It really is. We need money, sure, but we need validation. We need love. We need care. We need interaction. We need engagement. So the fact that we get to this point where we're working that hard for nothing and we're being automatons, like something or some things have happened in our past to make us predisposed to accept that. And then we get physical manifestations at this point in our lives. And we're like, what happened? Right? We're like, I don't know what happened.
I hear that
And
all the time. It
right,
it was like it happened overnight.
right. And in a way, it did. In a way, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. That one last blow off by
Yeah.
your boss,
Yep.
or that one last argument with your teenager, or that one last whatever, right? Like I'm just watching you just like close your eyes and take a deep breath, right? Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
real. That doesn't mean that's the thing that was so horrible. It's
Mm.
just that's the thing that blows you out of capacity to the point where you notice.
Yes.
Because you've been over capacity since you were 35, right? It wouldn't have manifested like this.
Well, and not only have you been over capacity, but as these physical shifts and this change in your hormone cocktail begin to change,
Right.
your ability to handle stress, your threshold for stress, your cortisol response to stress changes. So
Hmm.
not only have you been over critical mass for too long, but then also
Yeah.
your body's ability to weather that storm begins to change in subtle ways. So it's like those two lines converge, and
Yes.
that's the moment that you flip your shit.
Yeah, it's
Because,
too much. And no wonder we have emotional problems and not
yeah,
emotional. They're not problems,
right.
right?
Well, but
No
that's how they
wonder
get
we
labeled
start
by society.
exactly.
Yeah.
But no wonder we start to question things. No wonder we start to fly off the handle and get crazy, right? We cannot handle things the way we used to.
Hmm.
Chemically, load wise, like none of those things are possible anymore. We must find a different way to be.
Hmm. Absolutely.
The book Bitter or Better, I Decide by Hannah Koch is a practical and uplifting guide to turning life challenges into stepping stones. Bitter or Better shows how to understand yourself, resolve conflict, strengthen relationships, and reconnect with the source of love so you can choose better, not bitter, every day. For more information, go to bitterorbetteridecide.com.
And there's also this piece going on in the background too. When I talk to my clients about perimenopause, I'll tell them that often the social shifts begin happening before the physical ones do. So for perimenopause, one of the fundamental shifts or questions that I start seeing people ask is, why am I the only one that can do this? Why am I the only one? And it comes from when you've been in an estrogen dominated, estrogen saturated body for so long, you tend to smooth things out to keep the peace. You tend to take on the things. Sometimes you'll harbor little grudges and resentment under the surface, but you just take it on, and you try to keep smiling, keep going, and all that kind of stuff, right? That
Hmm.
builds up. And
Hmm.
as this,
And then it becomes like just what everybody expects of you too.
yes,
Then when it changes, you're going to go into that. But like when it changes, you have to like, again, you're looking around going, what the hell?
yeah. But that, what you just said, like that's part of the, I like thinking of it visually like a spring coiling in a box. And there's more and more kinetic energy behind that spring. And when it lets go, pow, the top of the box blows off. And that starts to happen emotionally because as you're going through this shift, you start asking questions like, why am I the only one that can do this? There are capable humans in this household that have two hands that can do the things, and yet I'm the only one doing it. And that's a normal line of questioning. that starts
Absolutely.
happening during that time frame, because what's happening from a TCM perspective is that you're no longer in the creating of life stage of your life. You are now into the creating of your life. So this is the stage where you'll see women change careers because they want to reinvent themselves. Some of it has
Mm-hmm.
to do with this invisibility aspect. It does. Some of it has to do with the fact that they're looking in the mirror and they see a different face looking back at them than the one that they've internalized. And they're like, wow, I feel like I'm running out of time to do all the things that I want to do. But the difference between females going through this and males going through this is males start asking questions, and they go through andropause, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Andropause, they start asking questions like, is this as good as it's going to get? Because they're starting to recognize that they're at the peak of their vitality for the rest of their life at that moment. And it's all downhill from there, or at least that's how they perceive it. For women, it's like a new chapter. I want to change my career. I want to finish the degree that I didn't get to finish because I got pregnant in college. I want to do something completely different. I want to travel more. So they want to pour their chi, their vital energy, into the creation of their life rather than into the creating of life. So you're not focused in that same home and hearth kind of way. You're not hardwired to. And you start looking externally and out into the world and going, wow, there's a big wide world out there that maybe I haven't been able to keep in touch with my friends because we've all been raising kids. And now we're at a point where we have more freedom. We can hang out. We can go on girls' trips. We can fill in the blank. And so that transition is also informing the questions of, well, why am I the only one that can do this? Why do I have to pick up these shoes every single day when you are a capable human with two capable hands and you can pick up your own shoes?
Sing it, sister.
And so that fuels some of that resentment too, right? So some of it is where you're coming into in your life that you start
Mm-hmm.
feeling frustrated with everyday things that you've just always just picked up and done because you've
Mm-hmm.
had this veil of estrogen that has softened your experience with all of it. Now it feels razor sharp and wicked irritating to be
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing. Now let's also bring in the movie projector of your life. What things have you been
Right.
harboring these grudges over? Maybe it is the damn shoes and you've just never said anything for 20 years. And all of a sudden, boom, the box blows open, the top comes off, and it looks like you're raging about a pair of shoes, which looks illogical to the receiving party on the other end because you've never
Mm-hmm.
acted that way.
Right. And then we bring in something like somatic experiencing, where we get to figure out, is it because I'm going to go back to the working 70 hours a week thing because I already sorted that through in my head instead of coming up with. I'm just like engaged with the conversations.
I love
So,
it.
is it because you have been used to, for all of your life, being taken for granted?
Mm.
And there's resentment from being a child and when you should have been taken care of and you weren't taken care of, right? And you had to do all the things when you were a child. Is it from your first boyfriend or your first marriage, right? When you followed all the directions that you had been given and did everything for somebody else,
Mhm.
right? And were got absolutely nothing from that. And so the sharpening, I love that word, the sharpening of your reactions to as estrogen drops, your sharpening of reactions gives us the perfect recipe for getting a chance to go in there and get curious. What the hell happened to you? Not in like a, oh my God, it was so bad, but like, hey, let's sort this out so
Mhm.
that we don't have to do the rest of our life, the next chapter where it gets to be about us. We don't have to do it with resentment. We get
Mhm.
to actually move past through and out the other side. I don't ever say we move past because it's too close to suppression. And that's what
Mm.
we've been doing all of our lives. And so this chemical soup, right? Like this TCM changing 40, 42 to 50-ish. And it gives us, as assigned females at birth, it gives us this chance to step into our own power. And so often we need help. We need help sorting that shit out because it is not easy.
Absolutely. It's not. And just talking about the dynamics of how we get here just conveys how multi-layered this,
Exactly.
our reactions and this experience is. And for a lot of women, we can't even vocalize where it came from.
Right.
It's just like, I don't know. And I've heard this from clients. So I'm giving the example that I've literally heard several clients say, I don't know. I was just standing there and all of a sudden I felt like it was going to be a volcano that was going to erupt. And I just exploded. And part of my body was going, why are you freaking out right now? And the other part, kind of like the devil and angel on the shoulders, right? Like one voice was going, why am I freaking the hell out right now? And the other one was just like, ah, like at the same time. And both
Right.
of these things coexist in the mindscape, in the lived experience, and that can be very confusing.
It can be very confusing and it can be a perfect opportunity. Because one of the big things with somatic experiencing is not to go all the way into the damn volcano,
Right.
right? When we revisit it later or even in real time, we can go back and forth between the devil and the angel. And that's actually a pivotal technique within somatic experiencing, right? We call it pendulating, and it's not about the devil and the angel, but it's like comfortable and uncomfortable,
Mhm.
or something familiar and unfamiliar, whatever it is, it's going back and forth so that we don't fall into any hole, so that we don't explode all over everything and lose ourselves completely and devastate our lives, right? We can, and all of your clients who have been like, I don't know where that came from, I would take that and go, okay, so you feel the anger, feel the volcano. Okay, now feel the fact that you're confused as to why this is going on. Feel the volcano. Okay. And then we backtrack and then we see, and we don't have to do it by meaning, right? It doesn't have to be about what happened. It can be, okay, so what's the feeling of a volcano in your body? So if you trace that volcano back, what happened right before that volcano started to erupt? And what happened before that? Okay, so what was going on in life right then? This was 5 days ago. What happened? Oh, yeah, you had that conversation. It wasn't even a bad conversation. It didn't even hurt, but it brought something to your attention, and you've been stewing on it for 5 days without actually paying attention to it. Oh, interesting. Because it hit you in just the right way,
Yeah.
right?
I did an episode earlier this season called Energy Goes Where Intention Goes.
Ah,
And it's this same concept. Whereas, like, sometimes whether we're conscious of it, we're still putting energy in that direction. And then the kaboom happens, and we're like, hold on a second, where did that come from? But not all of us have been taught how to have that level of introspection. And this is where somebody like Betsy and her gifts can help you take that journey and do that walk and figure out the trigger. But okay, let's look at the seed that grew, that got you to the point where that trigger not only was in place, but could be pulled.
and resolve it, not just find it.
Yes,
Such an important thing.
it's so critical.
That's the intellect. Like a talk therapist can help you. Talk therapy is beautiful and very helpful. I'm not poo-pooing talk therapy, but what I work with is the body, right?
Mhm.
This incomplete response from your body that was that seed, that original event that may not have even felt like an event.
Mhm.
And we allow that to move through, complete, finish. And that might not completely resolve every time that this is done, but it dulls the edges. So
Yes.
it's not a volcano, it's just like a little bit of an earthquake.
Yeah. So I did a post, I don't even remember how long ago now, that emotions are energy in motion. there is an actual physical aspect to the emotional response. And this is why I wanted to have Betsy on the show, because I think it is really important to understand that emotions are not arbitrary. Emotions help us understand our world. Emotions have an energetic component, which
And
is
they're not
why,
good or bad. They're
right,
just there.
they just are. Exactly. And so this is why I get this visual of the coiled spring in a box, because that's what's happening when you suppress emotions or you sweep them under the rug or you ignore them, whether it's for the good of the people, quote unquote, or whatever it is. There's this energetic component that simmers along under the surface. So when you get to this phase of your life, all that's been simmering has less of a filter and the lid on that box is significantly more fragile.
Yes, it's all been simmering in the tension on the water surface, but the tension starts to stop, so it stops simmering and starts boiling instead.
Yes, exactly. And perimenopause is actually a really beautiful moment in your life. And we're socially conditioned in our culture to look at it like, oh God, here it comes, and something to dread. And the Chinese medicine perspective, I really love it. They call it second spring because it's all about this new beginning in your body. It is a new chapter of your life where you are directing your vital energy in another way. And you build your identity, your purpose, your mission, your everything around you and what you want to do with your life rather than that hamster wheel of doctor's appointments and taking kids to dentists and sports events and family gatherings and planning the things. And you know what I mean? Like, yes, there's planning involved, but it's different. The societal expectations around what you do when you are of childbearing age is different. And it's high demand and it's very martyr-esque.
Mhm.
I will sacrifice myself on the altar of getting fill in the blank done.
Well, that's exactly what childbearing is, right? Growing a child, it's sacrificing yourself.
Yeah. And whether we think about it that way or not, like you are giving so much of your physical and energetic body to the giving, creating of life. And there's this really beautiful understanding in Chinese medicine that the energy during your childbearing years goes from your heart to your womb space
Mm.
and you reverse direction from your womb space to your heart and you pour out through your heart when you're in your perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal years. So changing directions on the interstate sometimes can have some bumps in the road, right? It wouldn't be any different than taking I-95 along the eastern seaboard and trying to reverse your north-south directions and assuming that there's going to be no car wrecks in between. Like, come on now. And there'd be no signage either because this phase of your life doesn't have signs unless you're
Right.
looking for them, right? So it's just a transformation that can be really beautiful. It doesn't have to be dreaded, lamented. You don't have to be afraid of it. The power in it comes in the understanding of what's happening and having compassion for yourself and using tools like the beautiful toolkit that Betsy offers to work through the things that the movie projector of your life has experienced up until this point. Because being able to complete some of those cycles and work through some of these themes and so on and so forth help you more gracefully move into this transition. Fewer hot flashes and night sweats. Like you will actually see it translate into fewer physiological symptoms.
Yep.
And you'll be able to embrace this next chapter of your life, instead of feeling like you're becoming invisible and fading away, you become somebody who's absolutely radiant and gorgeous, like Jamie Lee Curtis, who is like completely unabashedly aging and not doing anything to alter the aging process and is completely unashamed of it. And she's one of those beautiful women I've ever seen. I honestly think she gets more gorgeous as she gets older. I hope that I
Agreed.
age that way.
My person that I look to is Helen Mirren.
Oh, yes.
The
She's
take
another
no
one.
shit, give no fuck.
Yep. She's another one. Like, they just have embraced the fact that aging happens and there's not a damn thing wrong with it. And
Exactly.
it challenges that narrative of invisibility.
Are you up for it?
I
The
am.
challenge?
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Truly. I'm excited about it. And
Whole new chapter.
if anything, as a 40 something woman at this point, I love being where I'm at because maybe I miss the stamina that I had in my 20s, but my 20s were some of the sickest years of my life because I was trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be.
Exactly.
I'm healthier in my 40s than I was in my 20s because, frankly, I've moved into the I don't give a shit what you think phase of my life.
Yeah.
And it's part of why I have a podcast called Reproductive Rebel. Like, I feel at this stage of my life, like, this is what brings me joy. Being able to help people through education brings me joy. And I'm going to be for some people and I'm not going to be for others. I wouldn't have had the courage to say that when I was in my early 20s. God, I gave way too much of a crap. All my power was given away to everybody else. At this phase of my life, I'll tell you, hell yes, fuck no. Like, it's that clear. And being able to step into this more confident phase of my life, I wouldn't change anything.
Not a thing.
So I'm embracing this aging thing, even though I'm starting to get lines in my forehead.
Whatever.
It is. I mean, it is what it is.
It is, right? I love it.
I'd rather have the voice that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you were to leave our audience with any final thoughts around helping them with the physical experience of this phase of life, what would it be?
Don't be afraid of it. Maybe you need some help. We don't have to do any of this alone. Women throughout history have been with each other. Menopause has never been something hidden and forgotten and pushed aside. It's been known and understood, and you did it with your sisters.
Yes.
And yeah, it's hard. And it's hard to do it when you don't know the root.
Mhm.
Other people do, and other people can help you through.
I love
And you
that.
get to belong now. We've spent so much of our life trying to fit in. Now we get to belong to ourselves, first and foremost.
Yes, absolutely. And we used to pass this wisdom along. So now you get to be the wisdom keeper, right?
Yeah.
So if people are looking to work with you, Betsy, do you work virtually as well as in person? And how can they reach you?
Yeah. I work almost exclusively virtually. I do a little bit of in-person stuff, but I work almost exclusively on Zoom, individual clients, and I also work with groups. I do various small groups. Currently, I have a group that's once a month that's for free so that you can kind of get a taste and get a little bit of an oasis in the middle of your life. And my website is betseykudlinski.com. Sure that the spelling will be in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And if it sounds good to you, I'm delighted to talk to you. There's also a whole bunch of other SE practitioners at the traumahealing.org site under the practitioner directory.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for once again sharing your wisdom on the show. It has been such a pleasure, my friend. And
Thank you.
until next time, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at MoonEssenceMe on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.